Today on the show, we have Chris in Idaho. He is a DJ at Wildfire Entertainment. They have 17 years of experience, and they serve couples in Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Montana. In addition, they just won Idaho's Best Award for the #1 DJ company in Idaho. One thing that is unique about Chris's website, when you go to it, you can get a ton of reviews and see what other couples have said about him, what the experience was like working with them. I was just working a wedding in Jackson Hole, Wyoming with a great photographer, and she was mentioning to me how she thinks Chris is the best DJ and how he can turn a wedding around and how it has such a huge impact. So I just want to read one review that I saw in there that sparked my interest that I think could be unfolded. Cool. This is from Maddie and Justin. They got married in West Yellowstone 2021. And she said, if you are planning a wedding, you want Chris on your team. During the planning process, we did not realize the importance of hiring the right DJ. Chris did so much more than just play music. He was involved during the whole planning process, assisted our wedding planner, and kept the day running smooth. He's very professional. He took the time to get to know us as a couple and our entire family, and his attention to detail is incredible. He made our first dance more special than we could have ever imagined. At the end of the night, all our guests were raving about Chris. I think that is a perfect summary of what a good DJ can do. So it's good to have you, Chris. How did you get into being a wedding DJ?
Well, I got into just being a DJ. I was in high school, and I wanted to start DJing because I thought it would make people like me. I thought that it would make girls like me specifically. It didn't work, but I took my shot, right? I actually started with my church group. Our congregation was in charge of a dance, and so I went for it, and I said I can DJ. I know how to do it better than the old guy that's been doing it. So I did it, and it wasn't terrible. So I thought, looking back, it was terrible. Yeah. But, and then that transformed over the years to realizing the effect that I can have on people's day. And so now I actually kind of like to be on the other side of it. Instead of being there to get the attention for myself, I get my kicks now making the day for a couple. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I love this job because I get to go to work and feel something, right? Like accountants don't do that. I'm grateful for accountants, but accountants don't get that unless they get maybe a big return for their clients. I don't know. But for me, like I get to go to work and I get to feel something. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and I found that my niche is weddings over like school dances or anything like that, just because of the impact that I can have and honestly the impact that it has on my life too.
And give me a little history. We were chatting before. Did you grow up in LA?
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I'm actually from Reseda, where like if you've seen what's the movie Karate Kid?
Yep.
That's where he moves to, and really is that ghetto in some of the areas. But we moved here. My wife and I, we got married in 2008, and we moved to Rexburg, Idaho. We went to BYU, Idaho.
Yep.
And then we've just stayed. I never pictured myself moving to Idaho because it's Idaho. But now that we're here, we absolutely love it. And this is what I do full time now. And it's been a dream.
And you're essentially a traveling DJ to some degree, right? Because you serve Idaho, Wyoming, Montana. So what's that look like for you as a DJ? Are you packing up the gear? Do you got a trailer? How's that work?
I have a minivan, which my wife makes fun of me for, but I love my minivan. For us, we've really focused on the destination market. So whenever couples are coming to this area, a lot of times we're the people that they call. Okay. So if they're going to Sun Valley, if they're going to Jackson, if they're going to Boise, we even go down to Salt Lake. A few months ago in like November, we went to Nebraska. That was kind of a random one, but we specialize in having people come in and then just blowing their socks off and then sending them back home. We just pack up our stuff and go wherever we need to.
So you specialize in serving couples who are planning a destination wedding for them, and they pick one of the great spots around your area, Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, areas like that. And then you come in and say...
Even Rigby.
And Rigby, great. So, and then you come in and say, great, you're having a high caliber wedding, and we can be a local vendor that matches the caliber of the event that you're trying to have.
Exactly. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what our clients really want and trying to figure out what they don't know that they want yet. and then on the day of, then we deliver, and we always try to over deliver, under promise, over deliver, and it works pretty well.
Yeah. And then what in a nutshell, give me a high overview of, if somebody, when they hear the word DJ, they probably think X, Y, and Z. What do you think of when you think of DJ? And is DJ even the proper word to use for you?
It technically, yeah, but we wear a lot of hats, and I think my favorite hat to wear now is the MC role. And people just kind of throw that term away, MC, but I take it really seriously. It's Master of Ceremonies, and when we're there, we are the master of the ceremonies, whatever's happening. Whether it's the actual ceremony, we're there to make sure we know what's happening. Whether it's the cake cutting ceremony, first dance, whatever it is. It's really easy to get to forget what the wedding day is about. But we're there every single weekend, and I'm there trying to figure out how to squeeze more out of this wedding. And we do that by being the master of the ceremonies, being the expert in what's going on that day, so that these couples that get married once in their lifetime, they can come and we can help them get the most out of the day. So as a master of ceremonies, we make sure that it runs according to plan. Of course, we do the music really well, the DJing, I really like doing that, and that's fun. But I think we can have the most effect on a wedding day by mastering the ceremonies, making sure that it runs smoothly.
Yeah. When you think about, I'm a wedding videographer, and if this was an orchestra, who's the guy at the front of the orchestra who's waving his hands?
I mean, I would say the master of ceremonies.
That's his name, master. Okay, interesting. Yeah, in my mind, that's what you guys are at a wedding, because you're queuing everything up. You're queuing speeches, you're queuing cake cutting. A good example, I was shooting a wedding down in Mexico a couple weeks ago, and me and the photographer eating, at the table. We told the wedding planner, hey, we're going to be eating, and a big thing for me and them are speeches, and sometimes that can get shifted or bumped. And sure enough, the DJ, queued up the speeches without letting us know, and it was. In the couple's mind, it was fine. In our mind, me and the photographer went into panic mode because we thought somebody would communicate that with us, and we try to stay on top of it, but sometimes people can just slip that out. But in my mind, the DJ is not only interacting a ton with the couple, but the role, by the end of the night, I'm constantly on the DJ's cue, because they're the one executing everything at that point, and it can really throw other people. And so on our end, having a DJ that is just connected to the crowd, connected to the professionals there, they control the night at that point. It's not the wedding planner, they have a plan, but it's the DJ executing that plan.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not to say that wedding planners aren't valuable. It's been interesting because in eastern Idaho specifically, there aren't a ton of planners. And so we've kind of taken on that role to understand the planning side of it. And when I say planning, I don't mean the decor, design, or any of that. I'm really talking about the timeline and making sure that things run smoothly like you're talking about. So we use a process that, I drill into my DJs over and over, and I say, this is the process that you got to use. You got to make sure that everybody that's involved is ready for whatever's about to happen. So for the ceremony, we make sure that the bride's ready to go. We make sure that the officiant's ready to go. We make sure that the wedding party is lined up and they remember to smile and not lock their knees so they don't fall over in the middle of the ceremony, right?
Yeah.
And then just before, we check, and usually by this time we can lock eyes with the videographer, lock eyes with the photographer, just give them a thumbs up, and they say, yep, ready to go, and then we start. And we use that same process all the way through because I'm keenly aware that we're creating memories for that day, but if the memories aren't captured properly, they're not going to be able to look back on it, and that's not going to look good for me. Whether it's from the bride and groom, they say, yeah, the DJ started without our photographer in the room, and so we didn't get pictures, or I create a bad name for myself by the photographer saying, yeah, that DJ never cues us. So yeah, I think it's really, really important to work with our vendors, whoever they are, and some are more experienced like you, and some are less experienced, and so they need a little extra cueing. But yeah, I think your analogy is right. Having the DJ in front of everybody directing, but as much as possible, we like to let the players kind kind of play their own instruments and let them be the star of the show. And hopefully we just kind of fade into the background when we can.
If couples are in the process of looking for a DJ, and maybe they're at the end of the process and they're putting this final piece in, which is a really important piece, what can they plan on? Like what are costs that are involved? If they work with you, it sounds like you have a team. What can they expect when they approach you and say, hey, we want to hire you? What's that process look like?
We take a different approach to at least the pricing for the day. In my mind, when you hire a vendor, especially when you hire a DJ, they should be in charge of all the details, right? You shouldn't have to know how many speakers you need. You shouldn't have to know how many hours you need. The DJ should know all that stuff. They're the professional. So we basically block out the day and we charge accordingly. So we charge for the day, and whatever they need, we're there for them. So from the planning process, we're going to help them put together a schedule. We're going to make sure that that all the little details, especially when it comes to the flow of the event, the transitions from the ceremony to the cocktail hour, from cocktail hour, moving people over to the reception site. We're going to make sure that those details make sense, and that on the day of, that there's no weird hiccups. And so we meet with our couples, and we usually spend, on our first initial consultation, we spend about 2 hours or more. Yep. And then there are at least 2 or 3 other calls, half an hour or more, that we're meeting with them. Because for us, it always makes me nervous when a couple wants to hire me through email. And I think, man, that's crazy, because I could have a really weird voice and I'm going to be speaking to your guests on your behalf. And if you're not comfortable with me speaking to you over the phone, you're not going to be comfortable with me speaking to all of your guests on your behalf. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that I understand the vision of what the couple wants, so that I can execute that on the day of. As far as the other things that are expected, when you hire us, it's actually more work than other DJ companies, as far as the research that I've done in this area. We're more work because we put more attention to detail. One of the things that we do, and I don't know how much in depth we want to go into this, but we do a love story, meaning we find out how the couple met. Mm-hmm. We find out how they fell in love. We find out how they proposed, the whole story, and then we present that at the wedding, because it just gives so much more context to the day, and it reminds everybody what they're really there for. So that's one of the things that takes a little extra work. We make it as easy as possible for our couples, but also just going back and forth and making sure we have the music cues right and all those little details. As far as cost goes, we start at $1,500 and it goes up from there. Mm-hmm. Most of our couples are spending between $3,500 and $4,000. Yeah. But again, it's really difficult, because when people hear that number, they compare it to other DJs that they talk to, and almost every DJ in this area, it's really comparing apples to oranges because of the level of detail that we put in and the extra things that we do. Our couples have told us that when they hire us, we're giving them a complete experience, yeah, as opposed to showing up and playing music, which, there's one thing going to a county fair versus going to Disneyland. When you go to Disneyland, there's a whole experience. And I'm not comparing myself to Disneyland, but just the idea that there's this experience that you're giving people that are going to last them a lifetime. So, like I said, there's a little bit more cost involved with us, but on the back end, there's a whole lot more that they're getting for that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate you sharing all that. I think that was really helpful. Also, when anybody ever shares price, just know that it's always liable to change, especially depending on your needs and where Chris takes his company. So with that being said, if you want to reach out to Chris, you can find him at www.wildfiredj.com or on Instagram at wildfiredjs, so DJs. Thank you so much for being on this call. Also, if you're curious, I'm going to do another video with Chris, and we're going to talk about some helpful tips and things that DJ introduces to the wedding, so that you can make sure not to forget or make a mistake when hiring a DJ, especially if you bring together the perfect team. Don't introduce a weak link and make something that could just negatively impact your day after going through all that trouble. So, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, Greg.